Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Donlarrie, and today's video shall be the making of a jacket using the pattern we drafted earlier. If you are yet to watch my video on how to draft this pattern, I'll put the link down in the description box so that you can watch it. So I'll be making use of this African print fabric. This is an 100% cotton fabric. You can use any fabric of your choice, but I would suggest you avoid using too much stretchy fabric. So this is the fabric I'll be using. This is the lining that I'll be using, and I also have my fusible interfacing here. This is a soft one and 2 shoulder pads. So guys, let's get started. So the first thing we are going to be doing now is to separate the front and the back pattern. So we're going to be separating the side panel from the center panel because we need to cut out the darts. So now that we've separated the side panels from the center panel for both front and the back, we are going to be cutting on the fabric. So when you want to cut on the fabric, you will need to add your seam allowance to this dart line here on this side and on the side panel. So you do the same thing for the front. And we are going to be cutting the fabric and the lining using this pattern. The lining will be 1 inch shorter than the fabric. We were going to do the same thing for the front. You cut the fabric and you cut the lining. And for the front, we're going to be cutting out the facing. So the facing for the front, all I need to do when I want to cut it, I will just fold. I will fold in my pattern like this. And this is what I'm going to cut out for the front facing. So you just fold your pattern, then you cut all these parts for the front facing. So for the sleeve, we are going to be cutting out the fabric and the lining will be 1/2 inch shorter than the sleeve. So for the collar, we are going to be cutting out 1 collar on fold, and the under collar we are going to be cutting out 2 pieces of this. So I've cut everything out on the fabric, and I will just explain it one after the other. So this is the back, and this is the center of the back, and while this is the side panels. So as you can see here, I've cut out the fabric and I cut out the lining as well. So the lining is 1 inch shorter than the main fabric. So this is for the side. I'm just going to put this aside, and this is the center. So as you can see, this is the fabric here and this is the lining. So I cut out a facing like I explained in the pattern video. So you just cut your facing like this. You find the middle point of your shoulder here, and then you make sure the line is parallel to the neckline. So you can measure here like 3 inches. That is what I did. So from here I measure 3 inches down, and from the middle point of my shoulder I just shape it down to that 3 point. So that is what I cut out for the main fabric. So this is the facing for the back. So if you don't want to stress yourself, just cut your lining from the neckline. But if you can do it, that is fine. Just cut out your facing, and then you cut out the back lining, then you trim out whatever facing you have, you trim it out from the lining, then you just attach it together. So that is what I did, and this is settled for the back. So for the front, this is the side panels, and I cut out the lining the same way, just that the lining is 1 inch shorter than the main fabric. So this is the center panel for the front, and like you know, we are going to be cutting out 2 pieces for the center panel. So I have 2 pieces here. This is the main fabric. This is my fusible interfacing. I'm using a soft one, and this is the facing for the front. So just like I explained in the pattern video, you just find the middle point of your shoulder line here, and then you just mark it straight down to this upper chest. So that is what I did, and that is what I cut out. So the remaining part of it will be lining, and that is what I have here. So I've joined the lining to it, and this is what it will look like. But if you don't want to stress yourself too much, you can just cut out the whole center front for the facing, so you don't need to be joining it like I've done here. But if you can do it this way, that is absolutely okay. So this is the sleeve, and I cut out 2 sleeves and 2 lining for the sleeve, and it is half an inch shorter than the sleeve because that was what I left for the seam allowance. So I added half an inch seam allowance to the pattern, and so my lining is half an inch shorter than the fabric. I will just set this aside. So this is the collar, and we have 2 collar. This is the main one, so I cut this main one on fold, as you can see it, and I cut it in bias form. So this is what I mean by cutting in bias form. So you fold your fabric like this, and then you just place the center of the collar, you place it like this, then you trim it, you cut it out. So that is what I did. So I have the main collar and the inner collar. So for the inner collar, you're just going to cut out 2 pieces, as you can see here. So all you need to do is just to use your main collar, you place it on the fabric in bias form as well, and then you just add half an inch seam allowance to it, then you sew it. So if I open it now, this is what I will have, and this will be a reference for us to know where our center back is. And also you need to add your seam allowance to the dart leg, which I've done here. So you add your seam allowance to the dart leg. So before we join everything together, we are going to be placing some notches, which will be our reference when sewing on the sewing machine. So the first notch I will place is the break point here. So I'll just snip it a little bit. So just a little bit like that. And also we are going to be placing another notch at this point where the collar will be joined to the front panel. So as you can see, this is our collar here, and this is where the collar will be joined to the main fabric. So we need to place that notch around here. So you just snip just a little bit. So to start sewing, these are the panels for the front, and we're going to be joining the side to the center for both sides. Then for the lining, we are going to be doing the same thing. So once you've joined everything together, make sure you press it open, just like I've done here. And once you've done that, the next thing we want to do now is you place the front right side facing the back, just like this. Then we place the second piece on it. So just like this, and then we're going to be joining it at the shoulder, then we join it at the side seam. So we're going to be doing that for both fabric and the lining. So I've joined the front and the back bodies together at the shoulder, as you can see it, and also at the side seam. So I've done the same thing for the lining. This is the lining. So once you've done this, the next thing I'm going to suggest is that cross-check your measurement with what you have on this jacket. So you measure your bust, your waist, and your hip, and also your armhole. So make sure that it's the same thing with what you have on your pattern. If not, you need to make the necessary adjustment, because once you close it up with the lining, you won't be able to make any adjustment again. So once you've done that, the next thing we want to do now is to attach the sleeve. So this is the sleeve for the main fabric, and this is the sleeve for the lining. So we are going to attach the sleeve around the armhole. So the sleeve is going to go around the armhole just like this. The shoulder tip, we go with the center line of the sleeve. Then I'm just going to sew it round just like this. So this is how it will look like. So I will do that, and then I will do the same thing for the lining. So I've attached the sleeve to the bodice, as you can see it, and I've done the same thing for the lining. So this is the lining. The lining will look exactly the same way as the fabric. So this is our lining. So what we are going to be doing now is that we're going to be attaching this shoulder pad. This is optional. So what we are going to be doing now is that we're going to be turning our jacket into the wrong side, just like this. So this is the shoulder line, and then you fold your shoulder pad into two. So the center of the shoulder pad, which is here, is going to be on the shoulder line. So we're just going to place it on it, just like this. I will pin it down, and then we're just going to sew it. You sew it down to this side, and then you sew it to the other side. And you can also use your needle and thread to do that. So I've attached the shoulder pad, as you can see it, and I also tack it down to this part, as you can see it here. Make sure that when you are tacking it, you are not tacking it through to the right side. So you can see the right side, the thread is not showing. So just you tack it with one of these allowance. So that is what I did, and I've done the same thing to the other side. So now that we are done with the shoulder pad, the next thing we want to do now is to attach the collar. And remember that we cut out two collar. We cut one on fold, and we cut one which is the inner collar. So for the inner collar, we are going to be attaching the inner collar to the fabric, while the one that we cut on fold will be attached to the lining. So you need to iron your seam allowance. So this is our collar, you remember, and we added 1/2 inch seam allowance around it. So at this end over here, you need to iron that seam allowance. So just like I've done here, so you iron it at both sides, then you do the same thing to this one. So whatever you do to the main fabric, you do it for the lining. So we're going to be attaching this to the bodice, and then we're going to be starting from the center back. So remember the shape of the collar. This is the shape. So what you're going to do now is we're going to be placing the center back just like this, and this center back of the collar, we're going to be placing it together. So you make sure the right side of the fabric face the right side of the bodice. So you open it, and then you place the two on each other just like this. I'm going to pin it down. So we are going to sew it through to the front and to the notched part. Remember, we notched this part earlier, so we are going to be stopping here. So the seam allowance you folded in, we stop right at this point. So this is what we're going to be sewing. So this is the seam allowance. Then we are going to be sewing from here down to the center back. So I'll just pin it down. So we're going to be stopping there, and we're going to be doing the same thing to the lining. So this is the 1/2 inch seam allowance, and this is where I'm going to stop. So just open it, then I will stop here. So I've attached the collar, as you can see it, and the jacket is taking shape already. So this is the collar, and this is the 1/2 inch seam allowance that we folded in, and this is our notch, as you can see it. So I've done the same thing to the lining. Just like I've said, whatever you do to the main fabric, you do it to the lining. So this is the lining. So before we finish up with the collar, we need to join the sleeve together to make it very easy for us. So to join the sleeve, you need to turn to the wrong side. You really need to pay attention now. So you pull out your sleeve, pull it to the wrong side on the main fabric. This is the lining. You pull the lining sleeve as well. So the wrong side of the lining and the wrong side of the fabric will be together like this. Then you grab your sleeve. This is the lining and this is the fabric. Both are the wrong side. So this is the lining and the main fabric. Then you make sure that the side of the sleeve, which is the seam area, with the fabric and the lining matches each other. Then you're just going to place the right side. You can see the right side and the right side of the lining. You place it on each other just like this. Then I'm just going to pin it down. So this is what we are going to sew, and then we sew it round to the other side, and then we are going to do the same thing to the other side. So I've stitched it together, as you can see it. Then I'm just going to pull it. So you can see the lining and then the fabric. I just join it round just like this. Then the next thing is just to pull it. So you can see the sleeve now. So this is how the sleeve will look like. So now that we've done that, so the next thing we want to do now is to join the collar together. And to do this, you know, we're going to be sewing it from the wrong side. So all you just need to do is just to pull out, then you turn it. Just make sure you grab the right side of the lining and the right side of the fabric. Then we're going to be sewing the collar just straight like this. So we're going to be sewing it straight from this seam allowance. So we're going to sew straight to the other side. So I've stitched from here to here, as you can see it, like this. And we are left with the 1/2 inch seam allowance, the one we folded earlier, and remember the notch on the lapel. So what we are going to be doing now to finish up with the collar is we're going to be stitching with that 1/2 inch. So we're going to stitch from that part to this part, the neckline. You stop, and so once you've done that, then you're going to pick the fabric and the lining at the lapel. So you're going to stitch this part together as well. So you stitch from here to this part. So you're going to stop stitching at this point. Just do it carefully. Then you grab the lining and the fabric together like this. So you just continue sewing from here carefully. So this is how it will look like, as you can see it. So you sew it down, and then you do the same thing from here to this edge. And before you turn it out, you make sure you cut out all this sharp edge. So this is how it will look like at the front. So let's quickly finish up. So to finish up, from where we stop here. So we are going to sew from here where we stop down through to the hem line, and at the lining side you can see the lining is shorter, it's 1 inch shorter than the main fabric, both the facing and the lining. So you need to stop. So this is how it will look like. So you're going to be stopping here. I will just notch where I will stop at the lining part. So you leave about half an inch. So I've sewn from the top down through to the hem line, and just like I said earlier, so I left half an inch at the lining part because the lining is shorter than the main fabric. So once you are done, then the next thing we want to do now is to pull out from the right side, pull out the sleeve, and this is what you're going to have. So we only left with the hem line. So this is it. The next thing I will be doing before I close the hem line is that I will be top stitching the collar in order to connect both the front and the back collar together. So you can see it's separate, so you need to top stitch it round. So I'm going to be doing that now. So this is how it will look once you top stitch it. So the next thing we want to do now is to join it at the hem line. So make sure everything aligns together very well. So to do this, I will start from my right side, and then I will just pick the half an inch that I left at the lining and then the main fabric. So I'm just going to fold it. I'll fold the main fabric on that half an inch, just like this. Then I'm just going to sew it. So you can see, so I will just sew it through towards the center back. I will do it for this side, then I will do it for the other side. Then I'm just going to leave about 5 inches at the hem line. So I will do that, then I will show you what next. So I've done that, then I've done the same for the other side. So this is the 5 inches I left. So I'm just going to pull everything out. So this is how your hem line will look like this. Then to the other side, you pull it out very well. So I'll just pull it out. So you need to pull it out before you close everything up. So just like this, and this is the hem line. This is what you will have. So for this part, what you will do now is you're going to put these two together, and then you're going to stitch it together. You're not going to stitch through to the main fabric. Just grab this lining, the remaining part of the lining, you fold it, and then the hem line, the folded hem line, you fold the two on each other, and then you're going to sew it like that, and this is what it will look like. So I will do that, then I will show you how it look like. So for the remaining 5 inches for the hem line, I've top stitched it as you can see it, and this is the wrong side, this is the right side of it. So this is the front, this is the collar, you can see the notch part of the collar, and then this is the break point. So you can see our break point here, and at the break point, that is where I'm going to be creating a buttonhole. So you create your buttonhole, and then you attach your button to it. So guys, this is the final look of the jacket, and it really came out so nice. This is the back view, this is the inner front of the jacket, and this is the back. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos. Then I will see you again in my next video. Bye.